All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Demian, and we have Renji Matthew here with us today. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about how to make you a millionaire and how to do it quicker than the route of going the 401k. And this podcast is actually going to be brought to or inspired by something I read this morning in a book where it talks about if you maxed out your 401k, it would take you 21 years to finally get to the level where you're a millionaire inside of your 401k. So we're going to talk about how to do that quicker. Renji, you and I talk a lot about helping people build wealth and doing it quicker than going the route of the 401k. Do you have any insights as to any thoughts on the process and kind of anything you want to start us off with as far as like an introduction?
Yeah, we both talk about how passive income is the way to go, right? You can do the traditional route of putting money into this 401k and all that stuff, but like you said, it's going to take more than more than 10 years for sure. But if you build a passive income route, uh, what is financial freedom? If you can pay all your bills with your passive income, that's financial freedom. Now, to build wealth, you just multiply that as many times as you want, right? So if your bills monthly are $5,000 and your passive income, let's say with real estate or whatever passive income route you're doing, if you're making 5,000, you've already been financially free. Now everything else extra from work or from passive income is gravy, right? So now if you just multiply that as much as you want, now that's where you build wealth. So if you could do that within the next 5 years, you're already financially free. And if that's passive income is something that can last over time, over the whatever economy's doing or whatever it is, then you do have financial freedom there. And not only that, that's a better retirement plan than waiting 10, 20 years and then retiring when you're old and you might need a hip replacement or whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you. And let's start to just dive into the math. And I'm going to share my screen here, and we should be able to see this and kind of go through it together. So this is from investor.gov, and it's a compound interest calculator. And what we're going to look at is if we start with $0 and we contribute the maximum amount into our 401k, $500 a year, or that breaks down to about 1875 monthly. If we give it 21 years of compounding and we estimate at a 7.3% rate of return, and now that's not our number. This number does come from the data from the Motley Fool, which talks about the real return of the market for the last 30 years is 7.3%. So that's why we're using that amount. And if we calculate it in 21 years, you should have just over $1 million. So it takes you 21 years to build up a $1 million portfolio or a $1 million nest egg inside of your 401k based on this 7.3% rate of return. And then now, just to give you guys some context, because you may or may not know this, but when you get to retirement, how does retirement planning or how does retirement income actually work? And that's something that's called the safe withdrawal rate. Renji, do you want to kind of tell them what the safe withdrawal rate is and how it works?
Yeah, that's one of the things that a lot of financial advisors use to go over how much they recommend you take out of your retirement accounts annually. And again, that's just a recommended rate. You could take out more or less, but that's how much they say to take out. So you have safely enough to last till you pass away.
Right. And so if we pull up let's just go to a calculator here, and we have $1 million, and I think that's enough zeros. If we have $1 million, oh, and you can't see the screen, can you? Let's see. So if you have $1 million inside of your 401k and you go to retire from that, you have to follow the safe withdrawal rate. And the safe withdrawal rate for years has been the 4% rule. So what does that mean? That means that you can safely withdraw 4% out of your 401k each and every given year. And you would do this so that you don't run out of money in retirement because you don't want to have to go through a retirement do-over, which means you're going back to work to start to save and invest more money, right? So with a $1 million portfolio, if you take out 4% a year, most people are shocked to learn that 4% of 1 million is just $40,000 a year of income. So you've saved up 21 years in this scenario if you maxed out your 401k, and you've got $40,000 a year to show for it. This is why more and more people are starting to realize that a $1 million retirement account may not be enough to actually retire. But here's what we talk about, and here's how we help people achieve financial freedom sooner. Let's say that you were saving that $22,000 a year into a safe account where it allowed you to access it and to use it. And let's say you went out and got into a passive asset, a passive cash flow asset. And let's just say that that one asset brings you in $500 a month, right? $500 a month times 12, that would be $6,000 a year. You guys following with me? So 500 times 12 is $6,000 a year. How many assets would you need to replace that $40,000 a year of income that you would get from your 401k? If we multiply that by 7, you're at $42,000 a year in passive cash flow, which is similar to a $1 million portfolio inside of your 401k. So now let me ask you this, and this may not be for everybody, but for those of you that want to build wealth quicker and want to do it in a way, instead of waiting 20, 30, 40 years to some future date in retirement, you're 7 assets away from having a $42,000 passive cash flow, which is equivalent to having $1 million saved up inside of your 401. We have helped people, we've had a team of people that have helped others go out and acquire assets, whether it's real estate, vending machines, ATMs, car washes, storage units, billboards, ice machines, you name it. We have helped people go out and acquire assets, and they're on this path where they're getting to 5, 7, 10 assets, which allows them to become financially free sooner. They don't have to wait until they're 60 to have $1 million saved up, but they can get into 7 assets typically within 10 years or less, right? And Renji, go ahead and expand your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and Kyle's not even mentioning here taxes and stuff like that too, because that's 40,000 minus taxes, so it's even less than that. Even with the passive income, yes, you could say the same scenario, 42,000 minus taxes. But the same thing applies though. If you can get those 7 assets in the next year, next 5 years, you've built up what you would do the same as having a million in your portfolio. And also going back to taxes, that's also not counting what tax bracket you will be at when you retire, if the tax bracket stays the same as what it is right now this year. Because right now our national debt is what, 34 trillion, right? Something like that.
It's a
And
lot. Yeah.
it's 34 trillion and climbing. And the only way to pay that down is by increasing taxes. So I don't know where people get this idea of, oh, I'll just keep deferring taxes to later when it's going to be less. It's not going to be less if you think about it. If our national debt is 34 trillion and climbing, it's only going to go higher, right? And something that a lot of people forget about too is right now, most people, if they're married and have kids or a mortgage, those are all things you can write off. Those are all deductions for your taxes. What people don't realize, 95% of people when they retire, they don't have a mortgage anymore. They're empty nesters. Their kids are not living with them anymore. So that's less things they can write off. So in the eyes of the IRS, it looks like you have more taxable income. So not only is your taxes going to be higher when you retire, now you have more income that they're going to tax. So it's going to be even, that 40,000's looking even thinner as you go down through all those things, right? So, but if you can
Absolutely.
build that same amount of assets, bringing you that same amount of income in the next 5 years, imagine what you could do in that same time period of 20 years. You'll be building not only wealth for yourself, but for generations to come.
Absolutely. And that's something we didn't talk about is like all the other benefits that come from owning assets. And typically over time, they appreciate. So
Mm,
yeah, you might have $40,000 a year of income, but what about in the background, your net worth that's continually growing over time
yeah,
as appreciation happens with owning assets,
yeah.
right? And so this was just, one idea we wanted to, kind of review with you guys and start to get you to think different about how to build wealth because we're not taught about money in schools, right? We go to school, they may briefly talk about money, they may talk about balancing a checkbook, and then you go to college, you get a degree, you enter the workforce, and then what does your employer do? They tell you, "Hey, we have a 401k. Here's the forms to set it up and to start it." Most people go into 401ks not knowing what they're signing up for and what they're doing. And here's one thing that we'll kind of end today's show with is when you sign up for a 401k, you are entering a contract, not only just with yourself and your employer, but you're also bringing in a silent third party member. And that third party member is going to get paid regardless. You as the 401k owner are going to take on all the risks. You're going to experience all the losses of the market. And then guess what? When it goes time for you to take out your money, that silent third party that's going to be there and gets to determine whatever amount they take at some future random point in time, that's the government. That's Uncle Sam. They're going to take their taxes out of that money because you haven't paid any taxes on it yet. So this is one of the ways that we can, start to educate on ways to build wealth to help you get financially free sooner rather than going the status quo route of waiting until you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s and, crossing your fingers, hoping that you'll be able to retire. As we talked about on, last week's episode, they're raising the retirement age into the 70s, 75s, or maybe even later. One of the ways that you can control when and how you retire is by what assets you're investing in and how you're building wealth. And this is just one of the many ways to do it. So I hope this opened your guys' mind to what's possible and how to help you achieve, you know, the same reality that comes with saving into a 401k and maybe taking 20 to 30 years of your life and how you can do it sooner. And with that, Renji, is there anything else you want to end this podcast episode with?
Only thing I was thinking about while you were talking, another thing about taxes too, with the 401k, it's not a business. It's an employer contribution or something you're self directed too. But as a business owner with owning passive income, there's so many write offs. There's so many tax benefits as a business owner that it gives you more of your money, keeps more of your money in your pockets instead of going to the government. Unlike the 401k, like Kyle said, you might not know what tax bracket you're going to be when you retire. Not only that, you don't know how much of that money is the silent partner going to take, right? But with
Yeah,
owning your own business, there's so many ways you can write off on taxes that you get to keep more of your money. So that's something else to think about.
absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. My name is Kyle Demian. You can find me on Instagram at Kyle Demian and on TikTok at the Wealth Academy, Academy with a K. Renji, where can they find you at?
Same thing on all the social medias with Regimens. It's like Benjamins with the R. And on Facebook, it's Renji Matthew.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys have anything, like always, that you would want us to cover, leave your thoughts or your comments below in the comment section. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
See you guys.